I have a lot of content in my tent. A lot. Today I'm going to look closer at the Big Agnes copper Spur HV UL1 tent. It's a solo tent. I bought it because it was written 964 gram for a one person tent. I thought that was quite okay. When I weighed it, this is a tent. In the tent, all the sticks and poles I need, and you need a ground sheet and you need the bag to store it. Then suddenly it's 1 kilo and 276 gram. So it is not what it's written. So it's different weight. If you buy a Hilleberg and it's written that the Hilleberg is 1.2 kilo, it is 1.2 kilo. So Big Agnes is an American brand, and this tent is almost self-standing. You need 2 pegs to keep the upside entry open, but otherwise it's almost self-standing. And as we are used with the Scandinavian style of tents, is that you put the bow in and you put it up, and both inner tent and the flyer is up at the same time. With this tent they are separate. First you put up the inner tent and then you put the flyer on top of it, and you probably need a floor under it also. So this is a little bit more tricky when it's windy, and I've tried to put it up in different ways when it's windy and raining. If you get only wind, then you put up the inner tent first. Because when you put the poles and you are hanging up the inner tent on the poles, then it gets stabilized. If I wanted to try once, because if it's raining, you don't want to put the inner tent because then it's raining into it. So then you want to put the flyer first and then hook up the inner tent inside. I tried that when it was 50 meters per second maybe, and I tried it, and then it's very, very difficult. And actually I was worried to break the poles when I made it like that. And the fabric is very thin, so the poles can, I have the feeling that the poles can go through the fabric actually. There is good things with having the inner tent separate, because when you take it down in good weather, if you have condense or whatever, it's nice to separate them, and it's very easy to do it. It's also nice if you want to have lunch where it's a lot of mosquito, then you just put up the inner tent, you can sit there and eat inside. And that's a little bit more tricky with the Scandinavian tents, or actually you don't do it. But with this tent, you do it sometimes. Now I'm going to show you how you put this up here. It's an extra floor. Here we have the poles, and I want to also tell you that I have been using this tent for last summer a little bit and this summer, so I have used it. This is actually the inner tent, and here we have the pole, because it's not poles, it's one. So as you see, this one is silver colored, and then this one is grayish. You attach them together. So then you take the other one that's silver, attach it there. Then you go to the other side, and it's orange here, and you attach it. So, and we attach it. So And I never know if this should be on the top or if it should be on the underside. I have no idea, actually. Then you just hang the inner tent up. This is super easy. Just click, 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 click. And we had to talk about this these poles, because it's written DAC Featherlight NFL green something, and I don't know the different quality of this. I don't know the different quality of these poles, but yeah, it's. I think Duck is the brand that most of the tent company actually use, so it should not be super crappy. It should be quite okay, actually. I think Hilleberg use it too. But if you don't take care of them, you can break anything. So before we put the flyer on, I will talk a little bit about this inner tent. And this fabric, this is more waterproof on the floor than this one, but this is windproof. So you have the windproof up here. You have several different types of this Big Agnes copper spur. Some have lower, some have, yeah, there is some different type. I have no idea about the different type. This one have windproof up here, and I'm quite happy with that. The zippers are not really strong. So here you see you can just pull the fabric in here very easy, and then the door stays open. And you can also attach it with a string back here. This one is not elastic, so they are very difficult to connect. I don't like them at all. The floor is super sensitive, so if you get this one, you should get a piece of tyvek, or you should get a piece of something. I bought the extra floor so I can click it in if I want. This floor is also good if I want to put up the tent without the inner tent. So now in the autumn, when I go out, I could use only the floor and the flyer and get a quite lightweight tent. This floor is sensitive, of course, and I get a hole here. Actually, Stina get a hole when she was out, and one dog, her border collie Johnny, made a super start from the tent and out, and it gets a scratch and a small hole. And I never seen that on Hilleberg tents ever, actually. So it is a sensitive floor. Then when you look inside here, you have very nice storage area. Pockets here, pockets here, pockets here. That is super, real super with this tent. When I have spent some nights in this tent, I miss this when I go back to the Hilleberg tents, because I really love this solutions. In the corner here, you also have small loops if you want to attach extra gear loft, or if you want to attach drying lines and so on. Here we have a very nice pocket, and you can actually put things here. I put the camera there sometimes like this when I'm filming. I had to put something. Now the camera is on the gear loft there, and then you have other gear loft here where I put telephone and my glasses, and this is a nice solution, and I really like it. This tent is quite big. It's not big. If I compare this with other solo tents I use, it's more narrow. But I don't know if you can really see. If I'm laying down here, my head is up here now. I'm 172 centimeter, and you see there is quite a lot of space still down here. So this tent should be good for one person. I don't know, 190 maybe. I don't really know, but it's really good space, and because of the roof goes straight up here, the wall straight up, that make it also very roomy, I don't know, but yeah, it's a feeling of a lot of space. I must tell you, it's very simple. Remember I showed you the gray and the white, the gray and the orange here. It's a gray, click, and then you put it over, and the gray thing should be clicked in here. And then there is another gray on this side, should be clicked in here. So this is the tricky part when it's very, very windy, because this one should be put into these small things, and if it's windy it's a little bit more difficult to do that. So now the flyer is on place, but you see, they say that this tent is self-standing. It is not self-standing because you need something here. So, and you also need it on this side if you want to avoid that the flyer goes all the way to the inner fabric. And then you want it here. And you want it here. On all the strings that are short, I have attached a black extra loop. So I have extended them. Because if you can put an extension on them, you will be more able to find some place where you can put it down to the ground, because sometimes it's a big stone or root or yeah, something. So like here, it's a big stone here. I couldn't put it here, and then I can attach this here and I put it out. It's also lifting the fabric a little bit more like this. And here we have a ventilation thing here. So this one, it's possible to close it, but I always keep it open, and there is a velcro on here, so you can actually close it. So if you want, but I don't want. I always want it as much ventilation as possible. I want. And this thing with a small stick inside here, of course it adds some weight to the tent, but this is something that I'm missing on a lot of other tents. If I look at Hilleberg, for example. What I don't understand with this tent is, if you look in here, there is a mosquito net there. Why do you want a mosquito net there? Why not have it so you can, because now if I want to close that ventile, I had to go out. There is no possibility to put the hand out and just close it, and I don't really understand that. And this tent anyway, it's not mosquito safe, as you see. The mosquito fly in under. So the idea with mosquito safe, I don't know. Maybe the fabric is something for the construction, I don't know. The idea with ventilation on this tent is actually that you should get the airflow in under the fabric here. And I was a little bit skeptic to that in the beginning, but it seems like this ventilation work really good. I'm really happy with that ventilation. Now we have to take a look at this door, and there is small velcro things here that gives a really crappy feeling. When you open the door, and you open the door here. Yes, there is also one thing here that you should, this is a little bit annoying, but you should attach it around the pole like this. So that's not, but you have to do it. This door should be closed like this, and you should hang it up. And here again, you don't have this elastic, you have this crappy thing. So this is so, I don't like it. What I very often do is I just take the door like this and I put it up there. Now it's gone. So this is the best way of using this door, I think. It's quite roomy here. It's enough with space in the upside for putting things. There is also a possibility on the other side to put things under the fabric, because you have some space there. If you have fishing gear or a tripod for the camera or whatever, if you need extra space, there is available there. I don't use that so much, but it's enough with this for me. We had to talk a little bit more about ventilation of this tent and condensation, because there is two types of condensation you can get, as I think. One type of the condensation is because the fabric is cold and you get moisture air from your breathing, from your dog or from the ground, because it goes up, moisture air, cold fabric, and then you get condensation on the out fabric. So the best way to avoid that condense is to have the fabric same temperature outside the fabric as inside the fabric. And as you know, if it's snowing on top of the tent, this is not a winter tent, but if it's snowing on top of the tent or if it's raining, it's cooling off the fabric and you get a cold surface and the condensation, of course. But it seems like this tent handles that kind of condensation very well, because then maybe the tent is cold, but I like it very much, because I don't think that it's a sleeping bag that should protect me from being cold. It's not the tent. The tent protects me from the wind. Then there is a second kind of condensation that you have problem with this tent, is that when you are high up in the mountain or in the autumn, when you have this fog or low clouds coming and drifting, this moisture air contains small water drops, really small. It goes in under the fabric, it comes to the surface of the mosquito net and make condensation there. And then you have condense on the mosquito net, and that drips straight onto your sleeping bag. So that kind of condensation, the only way to avoid that condensation is to be able to close down to the ground, and you can't do that with this tent. And I had exactly the same problem with another Jack Wolfskin tent I used for some years ago. I tried it, but I didn't keep it. Otherwise, it's really good, and I like to have it, because that kind of foggy condensation, or what we should call it, I don't know, that's very, not super often it happens. The other condensation with the cold flyer and the cold fabric, that's more common, at least where I work and live. We also had to look a little bit closer at the fabric here. When you touch this fabric, it's really, if I compare to more expensive tents, this get a feeling of not being as strong. And until now, I used it for a year, mostly summertime, of course, one winter trip, I think. And until now, the only damage is actually this hole from Johnny, as you see. That's the only damage. Otherwise, there is no damage. The price is a little bit more, maybe almost half price of a Hilleberg tent. So I think you get quite a very nice tent for the money you spend on this. It will not live forever, of course. this tent, I think we will keep it a little bit longer, but there is one reason to change it. That only reason to not keep it is because I want another color for pictures. I want to test another tent for the YouTube channel. But if I just want to have a good tent, I would keep it. But if I just want to have one tent I can use for the rest of my life, I still want to go to Hilleberg, of course. But that's a double price. If you like this video, it helps us a lot with the algorithm. So if you give a thumb up, if you don't like it, it also helps us if you give a thumb down, actually. If you have any ideas about this tent or any other tent that you recommend to us, put a comment down here. Or if you just, because comments also help us with the algorithm. If you want to support us, then you can go to something called Patreon. We try to put different content there, but it's still open for everybody. But you can go to Patreon and give us some coffee money, $1 a month or whatever. That's really helpful for us to continue this work with this channel, actually, because we spend a lot of time and it's quite a lot of camera gear we had to buy and so on. I think that's all from Matti today. See you next time. Ciao!